The water here in Bolivia is not potable, which for Latin American countries and honestly some other parts around the world, it's not that uncommon that you can't just turn on the tap water and drink straight from the sink. So here, people are either using bottled water, or in the case of my Airbnb, I buy a big water tank like once a week, which is the same thing as like a water cooler that you would see like in an office somewhere. So my first time being here, I went downstairs, excuse me, I went downstairs to the reception and realized as I was standing there and the guy was looking at me like, what do you need? My Spanish has gotten really rusty. And when I tell you, my mind went completely blank in the moment. I don't know what I said, but I fumbled over my words and maybe got out something like, tienes agua, necesito agua, which is like the most basic way of saying like, I need water, do you have water? But nonetheless, despite my very elementary Spanish and just, not communicating myself in the best way, he still understood me and I was able to get what I needed, which is some water. So I share this because one, no matter how fluent you get in the language, you're still gonna have some days, right? Yo puedo hablar español, me defendió muy bien y yo sé el idioma, pero a veces hay tiempos donde se fue. My Spanish will leave me. But I know how to speak Spanish. It's sometimes just certain situations where my mind will go blank. Or honestly, I'm only at a certain level. So when we get into certain topics and conversations, I can be completely lost because it'll be vocabulary that I don't understand or grammatical structures I may have forgotten about just because of the lack of practice that I have had in the recent years, being that I've spent a lot of time in Asia. So that's one thing to keep in mind. But another thing that made me want to talk about languages today is the fact that I think we kind of put languages on the back burner when we're thinking about what destination we're going to relocate to when moving abroad. Because in today's age, we have technology and access to things like Google Translator, sometimes we just default to that and don't give learning the language a second thought. But I do think knowing the language, even if it's just the bare basics of the language, are still really important. One, because Google Translator can and will fail you. Whether it's because of a different accent that it just can't pick up or understand, or because of different vocabulary and slang that it's not accustomed to, especially here in Latin America. Oh my gosh, there's like 4 or 5 different words for straw, and some of them can lead to some embarrassing situations if you use them out of context or in the wrong country. And I lost my train of thought. So yeah, it is relying on a translator won't always come through for you when you need it to. And then there's also things like innuendos and jokes that it won't always be able to translate completely. Things can very easily get lost in translation. And then there's also the Wi-Fi. Situations where you just might be somewhere where yes, you have Google Translator on your phone, but it's not working because there's no internet connection. So these are things that I think are important to keep in mind, in addition to also how much of a difference knowing the language can really make in your experience living abroad. Whether it is building connections with people that are from the country, or opening doors to opportunities that may not have existed if you were talking to someone in English and not even trying to approach them or use the language that is spoken there. And just having more awareness of everything that's around you, like from street signs and being able to read store signs and looking at a menu and knowing what it says without always having to translate something. This can really make a foreign place feel a lot more like home. So I definitely would challenge you to learn the language of whatever destination you are looking to go to, even if it's nothing more than just the basics of hello, goodbye, how are you, thank you, the bare minimums to just get around, because they really can get you far. Now, if you're already in your destination country, this can be as simple as just going out and making yourself talk and engage with people out in the real world. And though I say simple, it really isn't, because it does take a lot to put yourself in an uncomfortable situation. But immersing yourself in the language and practicing with real people is really one of the best and fastest ways that you can pick up the language. Make the mistakes fast. Yes, it'll be uncomfortable and probably embarrassing, but it'll stick with you, and you'll probably end up making some connections with people along the way. Now, if you haven't made your move abroad just yet, some things that I did before I actually left the country were things like label my house with sticky notes. This might sound crazy, but bear with me. I would write vocabulary on sticky notes and label things around my house, like el sofá or la mesa. And then I would walk around the house and talk out loud using that vocabulary and whatever type of grammar and verbs that I knew to make sentences. And I was about to say sentences and phrases. English and Spanish brain going at the same time. To make sentences and phrases such as me estoy sentado en el sofá y de aquí yo puedo ver la mesa. En la mesa hay una botella. Qué bien. So like these sentences like don't even make a lot of sense. Like I just said, I'm sitting on the couch and I can see the table and there's a bottle on the table. It doesn't have to be something super complex. It's just getting yourself to get used to using the vocabulary for one, and then also formulating sentences on the spot, because that is essentially what a lot of language practice is, or language learning is. And another thing that I would do is memorize songs, not even songs with an S. I picked one song that I liked a whole lot, and I memorized the song, where I could sing that song whether the music was playing or not. Like I knew that song like the back of my hand. And so I would suggest finding one song, ideally a song that is sung or created by an artist from the destination that you're traveling to, especially when it comes to Spanish, because there are so many different dialects and vocabulary that are specific to a destination. So I wouldn't advise that you go memorize a Bad Bunny song if you know that you're going to Colombia, because unless you're going to the coast, you might be okay, but like it might be a little jarring, if you're learning Colombian, or if you're surrounded by Colombians that are speaking Colombian Spanish, which is like very neutral, and you're popping up with all this like Caribbean Spanish, and it can get a little confusing. So picking a song by an artist that's from that destination and just memorizing it, then sing it, practice it, use it all the time, because this helps really stick the words and the sentences to your mind because it's in a song. And it also helps you get accustomed to hearing yourself speak in the language, which is so essential. It is a big part of learning a new language, is really taking on this new identity that you have to become or step into when you are speaking in another language. And then another thing I would do is watch movies in Spanish with the Spanish subtitles on. Now this is very key, because a lot of people I know will watch Spanish movies and put English subtitles on, and they'll tell me like, oh, I need to know what's going on. No, you don't. That is the whole thing. You're only confusing your brain more when you're hearing Spanish and reading English. You want to be hearing Spanish and reading Spanish because, one, your brain will start to associate what's being heard with what's being read, and so it kind of helps you with two skill sets at once. But you're also working a muscle which I think is very essential when you are in the destination, and that is being able to understand context clues and communication that is nonverbal. You're able to fill in the gaps by seeing the storyline play out on the television and picking up and using the phrases that you are familiar with to kind of create a structure where you can fill in the gaps with what you think is going on. When you move to a new country, even if you have been practicing the language and you feel like you're at a good like B or even a C level, there will always be circumstances or situations where you don't understand every word that's being spoken. Even as a native English speaker, there are still environments I can go in where I'm not gonna know every word. I don't have a background in like the medical field, and so if you put me in a situation with a bunch of medical students, I'm sure they're gonna be saying a lot of things that I don't know what they're talking about, but you can still pick up on different context clues and fill in the gaps with what you do know in order to fill in that missing information and make an educated guess. The last thing that I would recommend doing, and this could be done either before your move or when you're already in the destination, and that is forcing yourself to, I don't want to say forcing yourself, that sounds bad, but that is journaling in the target language. Yes, it's very difficult. Yes, you might find yourself writing Spanglish or writing part English and writing part of the language, but that's okay. I think if you are doing that, just make a note to go back and look up the vocabulary that you didn't know. But practicing writing in the language and your own thoughts in that language can get you pretty far. Okay, so tell me, are you moving to a destination? And no, of course you're moving to a destination. Where else would you move to? Space. So tell me, where is your destination that you're moving to abroad? And what's the language that's spoken there? How much of an influence did it have on your decision to move there? And are you making an effort to learn the language? And if you weren't before, are you going to after watching this video? Let me know down in the comments below. And while you're down there, check out the description box. If you want more tips and resources about moving abroad like this, you're welcome to come join my Facebook group, Women Digital Nomads. You can just click the link and it'll take you right there where you can join. And that is all that I wanted to share today. Hopefully you guys got some useful and helpful information out of this video. I appreciate you as always for watching. Give it a thumbs up if it's one that you liked. Be sure to share it with someone who might find it useful. And I will see you all again here tomorrow. Hasta luego.